Hello, welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. In this episode, we're going to continue talking about ICD, International Classification of Diseases, version 10 in the US, and we're going to talk about grouping ICD diagnosis codes for analytical purposes. And why is this important? Well, this is important because ICD diagnosis codes, there are over I've heard numbers like 77,000 or 80,000. There's so many of these codes. And you have to be able to group them somehow to create meaningful analysis and reports. So there are many ways to group ICD diagnosis codes, and many of these ways are commercially available. The methods that I'm listing here are all either free or open source for researchers. So the first methodology is that you can use the ICD organization itself. And I'll be showing you three different methods. How you can create groupings for ICD codes using the ICD organization. The second methodology I'm going to be talking about is using HCUP's CCSR. CCSR stands for Clinical Classification Software Refined, and it's affiliated with HCUP, which is the Healthcare Cost and Utilization Project. And I know that these are a lot of acronyms, but HCUP is a registered trademark for the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. And apologize for all the acronyms. There are a lot in healthcare. Now, I've drawn here. This is supposed to be a room, and there's an elephant in it. So I'm going to highlight that there is an elephant in the room. I've told you very briefly in a sentence that there are some ICD groupers that are commercial software and they're commercially available. You can purchase them. Then I've mentioned two different ways of grouping ICDs. But you're probably thinking, well, isn't there a standardized global standard that just does away with all these different definitions and roll-ups and this agency doing this and that agency doing this, and CMS is doing its own thing. So, and there is a project like that, and I'm hoping it's gaining steam. It has had a fairly successful adoption in the US and in other countries, and this is the Observational Health Data Sciences and Informatics. And it's OHDSI, pronounced Odyssey. And this is an international collaborative whose mission it is to improve global health through wide-scale, large-scale analytics. And what they have come up with is, in my opinion, absolutely brilliant. They have created standardized concepts of diagnosis, treatments, procedures, and they've created among their current offerings, they have a data model. And they have mapped diseases, symptoms, etc. So all of these are standardized. They've even created functions to create cohorts. So for example, if I were interested in a study on diabetes and I wanted the standard definition with one major tweak, I could do that with a point and click software, and then my point and click would be saved as code. So then it would it avoids a lot of legwork and a lot of coding work, and a lot of coding work that could, because different people are doing it, could be inconsistent. So the Odyssey brings about the standardization. And this is something that is in R, but its products and offerings are being worked on in Python. And I, for one, am watching them very keenly. So let me talk about how you can leverage the ICD organization. It's the way that ICD is organized to group the codes. Well, there are 22 chapters, so you can group them by chapter. Each chapter has its subchapters, so you can do that. Then you can also, a rough and quick and easy way is to take the first 3 digits of the diagnosis codes. So let's look at these 3 methods with this example of diabetes that I've been using. So chapter 4, for example, covers diabetes. It also covers other illnesses and diseases. So this chapter of 4, the one that is highlighted here, E08 to E13, that focuses on diabetes. If you were to take the first 3 digits, then it even breaks it out further. And I like this breakout because you have diabetes due to underlying condition, type 1, type 2 broken out. So later on when I'm doing in another video, when I'm taking my diagnosis files from each setting, I'm going to be counting the number of diagnoses using the first 3 digits of the ICD diagnosis code. Now, HCUP's CCSR software. This is pretty neat too and pretty useful. It contains 22 body systems, which is roughly analogous, although not completely similar to the ICD chapters. And they give you about 530 general categories for the diagnosis codes. So for example, diabetes is represented by 5 categories. And here I have given you the categories. So without diabetes, without complication, with complication, type 1, type 2, or diabetes due to an underlying condition, whether it's drug-induced, chemical-induced, or others. So this is also an excellent system that you could be using to group your diagnosis together. I hope that you have learned something from this video. Thank you for listening.